This is the Brew World Order Podcast.
Welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Curtin. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're living your life all wrong. This is episode number 42, like the late great Jackie Robinson. And in this episode, I sit down with Andy Sist and Kyle Poole of new Motion Beverages and Embolden Beer Company in San Diego, California. Kyle and Andy talked to me about how they came up with the names for their two companies, how they define success, and how Andy's fiance saved the brewery from getting flooded, but wound up getting trapped on top of the bathroom for an hour in the process. I can relate. So after a long night of drinking, I've been trapped. Not on top of the bathroom, but inside of it. And those are the nights I'd like to forget. But what you shouldn't forget to do is keep on listening. Crack open a beer and enjoy the podcast. I think you'll be happy you did. Hey guys, I'm Mike Curtin. This is the Brew World Order Podcast, and today I'm with Kyle Poole and Andy Sist of new Motion Beverages and Embolden Beer Company in San Diego, California. Andy Sist and Kyle Poole were roommates at San Diego State. After graduation, they had started really getting into the San Diego craft beer scene. After working the old 9-to-5 and enjoying craft beer culture on the weekends, Andy and Kyle met the women who would become their wives, Ariana and Megan, who would also become co-founders. The women encouraged Kyle and Andy to focus more on health, and during that period they discovered kombucha. One day Kyle, an engineer by trade, brought some books on making kombucha and brewing. The two began brewing and experimenting with process and flavor. After 4 years of experimentation and product development, which included hard seltzer and hard sparkling tea, they were ready to find a home to brew their product. Sometime during the process of developing New Motion, Kyle reached out to friend Cody Morris as a consultant to get their brewing operation going. At the time, Cody was brewing at Mission Brewery along with his cousin Andrew Kelly, who spent time brewing at Coronado Brewing Company. During the pandemic, Cody started evaluating turnkey operations for New Motion. The pandemic was underway by summer when an equipment broker let him know 32 North Brewing was seeking a buyer. Andy and Kyle took a tour of the Miramar Brewing facility and decided that this was the spot. Not too long after, Cody and Andrew wound up leaving Mission Brewing and joining forces with New Motion Beverage to open up as Embolden Beer Company. And Andy and Kyle are here with me today. Guys, how we doing?
We're doing great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, man. So tell me the main question is, how did you come up with your name, New Motion and Embolden Beer Company?
Yeah, so New Motion, Kyle and I came up with right when we were first starting to do this, because let's just be honest, Kyle and I, if you ever meet us, we're not the kind of guys who are ever going to put our IPAs away for good. I'm not going to put away my whiskey and my cocktails that I love for good. But if we can do one little new motion every week, then eventually we can get in a better place with our health, maybe shed a couple of pounds. So for us, New Motion was all about creating non-beer beverages that were as tasty and kind of like fun and cool to drink as getting a craft beer, so that maybe once a week you kind of substitute out and make a little new motion in your life.
Gotcha.
Now,
yeah.
Embolden, we started because when our head brewer and director of brewing ops, Cody and Andrew, left their brewery, Mission Brewery, which is one of the biggest breweries here in San Diego. It's a true juggernaut of a brewery, and they're in two of the highest positions there, but they boldly left that cush job that they could have been gone all the rest of their career with.
Right.
They left that cush job to come at a startup with us. That was one of the boldest things we've ever seen. So we make Embolden beer to make people, they say that beer is liquid courage. So this is for anyone who's going to go out and do something brave in their day, just like our brewers did.
Right. All right. So I know you guys had taken over the 32 North Brewing, the Miramar Brewing facility, but from the start to finish during that process of opening your brewery, what was the most challenging part for you? And also, did you have to go about buying any new equipment or anything, or was everything kind of set up for you to go?
Well, I'll say that the most difficult part, and then, I can let Kyle go on with some of the other, buying the equipment and everything, but truthfully, the hardest part is raising the money, in the sense that you've got this vision and it's so clear in your mind. The hardest part is translating that excitement and that dream and that vision to people who have the money, but they want to make a safe bet with their investment money. So trying to get that brewery vibe to translate to paper is probably the most difficult thing, because we didn't have production beers even brewed yet when we were buying it. So it's a lot easier to taste the dream than it is to see it on paper.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd say that's by far the kind of hardest part, is really rallying, kind of building the village around you and rallying investors. We were able to do a lot of friends and family to put that together. But to answer your other question, we were fortunate enough when we took over this space. It was an operating beer brewing facility. We came in and cleaned everything up and cleaned, all the tanks up and kind of made an evaluation. We bought, new hoses, some of the soft parts, had to do some maintenance on the boiler, stuff like that. But we didn't have to really purchase make any major equipment purchases, luckily.
So what was that actual moment for you both? I know you had bought some books and whatnot. What was the actual moment where you thought to yourselves, I think it's a time that we start looking at places?
Well, I don't know what moment it was for Kyle. So I'd be interested to actually hear his response to this. For me, it was when we were doing some events and we couldn't get paid. And I come from, because it's illegal, you can do homebrewing events and competitions and things of that nature, and you have people who want to buy product from you. And I come from a sales and marketing background. So that just struck a chord with me that I'm like, as much as I would want to, as much as we've got this quality homebrew product, we couldn't sell it.
Right.
And that's when I decided that I want to find a way to be able to get this in the hands of more than just my 10 friends.
Right.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think, for me, it kind of the same thing where we started out on a journey exploring brewing and kind of just messing around with recipes, and then we started to get more serious about it, and then we got to a point where we really felt that we had a product that was better than what we could buy out in stores, and then we started to get a lot of friends and family telling us that, and then random people that would be telling us that and wanting to buy it. So kind of along those same lines, it just kind of turned into, we felt like we could build something and do a little bit better than what was out there in the market. So.
And how did you guys go about finding the capital to fund your business?
It's been a long journey, honestly. I mean, we've been working on this project for, in total 5 years to get to this point where we're at right now. And, the first few years were more just brewing and kind of getting everything set up, but we've been searching for capital for the last really 2 years. And we went through, networking events, pitching, using connections, meeting with venture capitalists, talking to angel investors that we met with, doing competitions, just trying to go through every single avenue possible to get the idea out there. Ultimately, what ended up kind of working is we had our lead investor from friends and family. And we got, once this opportunity came up, we had a couple more investors that were bought in, and then we just went back around to people we've been talking to and a lot of friends and family, and we were able to pull everything together. So,
and I'll say to anyone listening who's brewing, getting your first investor is going to be the hardest. The more that they can see that dream start to come alive and see bigger and bigger batches of the beer and the beer getting better and better, that's when it became easier by a degree or two.
Right. Once they start to see the product and see it right in front of their face.
It's a lot easier to sell the dream of a delicious beverage when you can hand someone a cold, delicious beverage.
Right.
In your branded can or what have you.
Right, for sure. So what's something you both never thought you were going to have to deal with when opening a brewery?
Honestly, the amount of, we both knew it would be blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
And in our day jobs, blood, sweat, and tears is, 60-hour work weeks, 12-hour days, whatever, doing meeting after meeting and meeting people and doing spreadsheets and all that. What it comes down to is you got to put a lot of elbow grease in to do this as a startup, unless you just find $1 million huge investor, whatever. You're going to be doing you're going to have to learn how to paint, use power tools, do all that stuff. So no matter what background you come from, I had to learn all that stuff to do this. I never thought that I would have to.
Yeah, and I think, for me, like I said, we spent a lot of time like doing research and kind of building a plan up front. So luckily, having going into it and been doing this now, having taken over and been doing it for the past 7 months, there's nothing crazy that has popped up that we were like, oh, we just didn't think about that. But definitely things are just, more involved than when you kind of put them down on a piece of paper and a plan. So
Yeah, right. For sure. So you talk about putting in your, blood, sweat, and tears. How important is a mental break from, to just walk away from everything for a little while to just get that sanity? And what does that look like for you?
That's honestly, like, that is so important. Just over time, it's always, I think the journey over the last several years, there's a lot of, it's a roller coaster. There's so many ups and downs. We've been able to kind of lean on each other when I'm kind of down and out or ready to give up or vice versa. But now, especially, taking that break, we've been talking a lot about wellness, and trying to focus on it, trying to, take at least a day right now where we're not at the brewery and not thinking about it and maybe only responding to a couple emails.
Right. Yeah.
So that's super, super important because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it's really easy, especially in the beginning, to forget that and just kind of work 24/7. So that is honestly one of the most important things because burnout is real.
It is. Yeah, and like Kyle said, you've got to have people involved with you, whether they're direct partners or people that you bring on that you hire that you really trust like family, because you've got to be able to know that if you turn off your phone for a couple of hours, that everything's not just going to magically disappear while you're away from it for a few minutes. Because you can only put all the blood, sweat, and tears in for so long until you're out of all liquids in your body.
Right. Completely drained out. I got nothing left. So what do you think so far is the biggest lesson you've both learned?
The biggest lesson that I've personally learned is the value of community. No matter how high powered you are, no matter how much, you think that you can be the one to, conquer the mountain or whatever, you really just what you need is other people. We learned right away that we couldn't do this without the other brewers and the brewing community here in San Diego, especially during this pandemic time.
Right.
But no matter how good you think that you are, you've got to be able to lean on the community and play well in the sandbox, because ultimately the community will either uplift you or you'll just be one more jerk left in the dust.
Right. Yeah. Who's inspired you most in the beer industry?
I don't know. For us, honestly, it's our friends over at a brewery called
Harland. Okay.
So what they did for us was something that they didn't have to do or anything like that, but they knew our head brewer and director of brewing ops from previous time when they got, then when they were starting new. And, ultimately I've got a lot of respect because they had no reason to do so, but they came on when we first opened and did a collaboration beer with us, even though they're the type of brewery that sells out a special release online before it even makes it to the store. They're selling out everything, and they came and took an entire day away from their job to come and do a collaboration brew here that we could sell here for our grand opening. And I've got a lot of respect for that because they put community ahead of profit, and they put community ahead of themselves. They put they paid it forward to us, and I'll never ever forget that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome thing.
Harland's been just an amazing brand in San Diego. They're really crushing it. They've really given us a head start in this community. So bad props to them. And of course we love a lot of there's tons of great beer here in San Diego, and there's a ton of great brands that we look up to as well. So absolutely.
Right. So how do you both define success?
So I thought if you would have asked me this 5 years ago when we started this idea, I would say having the brewery.
Right.
Really, the way that I think that I've come to define it now is when we can get to the point where we can achieve our second level goals, which is to be able to give back to our community. Charity events and charity beers are very important to us. Doing sustainable efforts to give back to the greater community are also very important. And then we can't wait for our opportunity to be big enough when another new entrepreneur is coming around to be able to help them out in the way that so many angels have come to us and helped us out.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think that those are two of the biggest ways for sure, is just being able to be in a point in our business life cycle where we can truly make an impact in the community, where we can, focus on sustainability, the environment, making a difference. Those things are really big for us. It takes time to get there, but I think, when we get to that level of success, being able to be widely distributed and be able to kind of make impacts in supply chains and in our community, those are some of the big ways we're looking at right now.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So when it comes to marketing for you guys to get your name out there, how do you go about that? Is it mostly just a social media thing, or do you try other ways?
Yeah, so as a true startup, we have essentially a $0, like advertisement budget right now.
Right.
We're actually hoping to start launching our first paid advertisements in a local online beer magazine. But other than that, truthfully, it's through our social media, promoting it on there, talking to the local beer news. They really, if you've got something to say, they definitely do a great job. Shout out to San Diego Beer News, who's definitely done some great coverage on some of the fun stuff that we've been doing. But really, it's just relying on the word of mouth and the grassroots community. The industry here has honestly been our biggest marketing tool. We cater to other breweries and the brewers that work there, and the word of mouth has been incredible. People are actually paying customers to our brewery when they're leaving their own brewery, and no one has to do that, but that's that kind of grassroots love and community that I don't think we would be able to do what we do without that, with the limited budget that we have.
Right. Yeah, it's like you barely have to even worry about a competition, so to speak. It's almost like a brotherhood. That's pretty
Right.
It's pretty phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely a brotherhood. I mean, we're all competitors for sure and going after the same market, but it's definitely a lot different than most other businesses. And that's one of the things that really attracts us about this community is sometimes business can be cutthroat or, people can lose their ideals, but this is much more of a brotherhood that it lifts each other up.
Yeah.
Right.
The rising tide lifts all ships.
That's right, for sure. So I know you haven't been open that long amount of time, but for you personally, what do you think has changed the most in the last 5 years in the industry?
Yeah. So it went from, 10, 15 years ago to where craft began to being about 5 years ago. I would say it was the end of the beginning of the craft movement, because all the craft players from the first round got so big, especially here in San Diego. The people who were originally out of a small, closet-sized space now had 10 locations and hundreds of thousands of square foot warehouses, and craft didn't look like craft anymore. But what we've noticed in the last 5 and every year it's becoming more and more like this is that it's very, very local and it's very, very specialized. So the main thing is now places have to be able to, kind of cater to that local community a lot more, because there's not going to necessarily be another Ballast Point or St. Archer, Stone Brewing, Firestone, Walker, Mission Brewery,
Right.
Any of those, getting a craft beer brewery to become that dominant in a marketplace is a whole different thing now. And it's going to take community effort, and it's going to take being very specialized and having a very focused marketing to a particular type of consumer. Because not every beer drinker is the same these days. That's why we had to start 2 brands in the first place.
Right, yeah. There's a lot of options out there now.
Oh yeah, there's so many options, and everyone wants the perfect thing like that's just right for them.
Yeah,
Right.
and beer has just becomes very hyper local. There's breweries on every corner in a lot of cities, especially in San Diego, and everyone has their favorites. So becoming hyper local and really leaning into your target market and initial customers is really important.
Right. So for you both, what do you think was your gateway beer into the craft world?
I know mine, Kyle.
I gotta search my memory for that one.
All right. I'll drop mine first. And with the added bonus of the fact that at first I was like, oh my God, hand me back my Corona. It was midnight on the night I turned 21, and my friend bought me a stone arrogant bastard.
Oh,
and
man.
it was quite unlike anything that I've ever had before. And, on my 21st birthday, that was a long ass time ago.
Right.
So there was no way that I could have known what they were handing me, because this wasn't even a big thing yet. It changed the way I viewed beer forever. And by the time I was ready, 6 months later, after having been 21 for a while, trying a bunch of different beers, I realized how much respect that I had for those bold flavors and bold choices.
Right.
And I never went back to mass-produced beer ever again.
And it's a great beer.
Yeah, it is. I was just thinking about it. I mean, my gateway beer, probably around 21, even probably before that, honestly.
Right.
It's kind of weird to say, but I feel like my gateway beer is probably Blue Moon, because that led me to a lot of German Hefeweizens, like Franziskaner and some like Spaten and some of the other ones, and then ultimately to Coronado, Orange Avenue Wit, and then from there into IPAs. So
it's funny, I never hear anybody say Blue Moon, and that was actually my first, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Because before that, I feel like it was just all Coronas or
right,
latte or mass-produced beer in college. So
I think it was pretty much for me. It was like Blue Moon, and then Sam Adams, and then Stone.
Oh, yeah, Chop's another one.
Yeah, so that was basically like my first three. Yeah. So what's the next step for your brewery? What does the future look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a really unique position. That's really exciting. We've got out the gate really, really fast. I mean, it's been crazy in the last 6-7 months. We went from taking over a space in 2 months, kind of remodeling and cleaning and getting products out there, to signing a distribution agreement. Now we're just really growing. So we're setting our sights on expanding. I mean, we're looking to get new tanks and some equipment we need to kind of help streamline and be more efficient. And then we want to just double down in our market, in our Southern California market. We're looking to go into LA, Inland Empire. We're looking at Arizona. And we just really also want to build our new Motion brand and focus on hard sparkling tea. So
very cool. Very cool. And if somebody has come to you and asked you for advice on opening their own brewery, what would you tell them?
My first thing would be, you're going to end up going down a lot of different paths to get there. One thing that I learned actually from my business partner, Kyle, is, you've got to travel all avenues, because there's things that we thought were going to be a slam dunk that panned out to be absolutely nothing but a waste of time. But on the other hand, things that we thought were a shot in the dark came out to be an absolute saving grace, or just the huge boost that we needed.
Right.
So you've got to go down the road less traveled a lot of times, and you've got to be able to just get right back up. And sure, it might be frustrating sometimes, but when you get those huge, just like slam dunk wins off of something that it was just a shot in the dark, it's really satisfying. And I don't know that we would be here if we would have just followed our original path. We wouldn't be here. I'll come right out and say it. So yeah, going down the road less travel would be.
Yeah, and I think along with that, the biggest thing is just patience and persistence. Because I think you end up going down a lot of different paths to try to make something work, and a lot of times they don't work out, and so it can be really easy to get down and just kind of give up. So having the patience to know that, and persistence to just get back up and kind of figure out the next path.
Right.
More often than not, that's kind of how the journey works.
Yeah,
for sure. Oh, so
and also,
yes.
sorry, I got one more thing that I just thought of. Also, know when to say no, because sometimes, especially early on, someone might come in with an offer that seems either too good to be true, or more often it's really good for them, and they might perceive that you're in a bind. Know your worth. Know when to say no, and have the confidence to go back to the drawing board and try something different.
Right. Good advice. Good advice, guys. Did you happen to have a funny story for us?
Yeah. So I could have tied this into one of your earlier questions of stuff that you never thought you'd see or do.
Right.
When I left my job in sales and marketing to come here and be essentially in sales and marketing, because we've got all the production stuff handled by best in the business type people. One particular night, myself and our other co-founder, Megan, my fiance, happened to be here late, sending an email or what have you. And if I wasn't sending this one last email, we wouldn't have heard some loud, strange noise coming from the brew house.
Okay.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, these things, of course, yourself and all your listeners have probably been around brew houses enough to know they make random noises at random times. There's automated timers, things blowing off steam, whatever. But we're like, we'd only been there for maybe 2-3 weeks at the time. So this is very new to us. And we're like, okay, it's pitch black out there. It's 10 p.m. We're going to go check it out. Well, it turns out that our main water pipeline, which is about an inch diameter pipe, had burst. And in the heat of the moment, I thought, with all of my skilled training with this kind of thing, which was absolutely zero, I thought, I'm going to go ahead and try and He-Man the fitting back together. While it's doing about a gallon a second coming out of it. That wasn't going to happen. So as I'm trying to do this, mightily fighting against the tide, which, was pretty much going to drown our entire brewery, all of a sudden the water stops. And I'm like, okay, this is, thank God, whatever. And I'm looking around, and my fiance had scaled an 8-foot wall to get to one of the water cutoffs that's above our bathroom. The only funny part about this is that she managed to get up there and save the day, and then could not get down, and it was pitch black in the brewery. Had no idea where all the stuff was. We'd only been there for a week. It took us about an hour to find the ladder to get her down. With her trapped on top of the bathroom after having saved the day.
Yeah. Well, at least she saved the day. That's the important part.
She saved the day. She saved the day and got, what do they say? The road to hell was paved with good intentions, as they say. And, she stuck her neck out there and got trapped on top of a bathroom for an hour.
Jesus. That's great. So I have a segment called Quick Fire 5. 5 quick questions. Beer related. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Right. What are your beers you would recommend someone try?
Go ahead and, if you are not from San Diego, try our West Coast IPA, Clear Intentions. It's in a throwback West Coast San Diego style. It's not going to be one of those tongue-buckling hot bombs. You're actually going to get the taste of the beer. Okay.
Honestly, I would say our rewriting history. It's we call it a juicy West Coast IPA, so it's kind of looks like a hazy, but it finishes smooth like a West Coast. Definitely something innovative, and it's really delicious.
Okay. Favorite brewery other than your own?
I'm gonna have to go with Virgin Beer out of Carlsbad.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Well, that would be mine, but I'm gonna go with right now. I'm gonna go with North Park Beer Company. They're just putting out amazing beers. So.
All right. Favorite style of beer?
West Coast IPA.
The classic.
Okay. Yeah. Barrel aged, imperial, or both?
I prefer imperials to most barrel aged beers.
Okay.
Yeah, I would actually have to go with barrel aged.
Barrel aged. Okay. And you have 1 keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
Okay. Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to go Trivana by Virgin.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick one of our own because I've got more than 1 keg of those. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Epic 1045 to Denver. Yeah.
What's that one? I'm sorry.
Epic Brewing Company. It's 1045 to Denver, West Coast IPA.
Okay. Well, guys, that's all I have for you.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
For your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with me.
We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it more. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast, here with Kyle Poole and Andy Sist of New Motion Beverage and Embolden Beer Company in San Diego, California. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for listening to my interview with Andy Sist and Kyle Poole of New Motion Beverages and Embolden Beer Company in San Diego, California. Whether you're passing through, you live in the area, or just visiting a friend nearby, you should definitely check them out. Give them a follow on social media, too, while you're at it. Every other Sunday, I'll be releasing a new episode, so subscribe and you'll never miss one. Also, check us out on social media for updates on the podcast. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast. You stay safe out there.